The following story was submitted on Reddit by Reddit user IamDankyKang69. I usually give somebody the benefit of the doubt, especially when somebody is considered an outcast or different. Not having many friends and having lots of trust issues, I can completely understand and empathize with people who tend to be loners. Some are worse than others, sometimes a lot worse, but what has happened is the concrete reason why I believe people should rely on their instincts. I was just in the prime of building a bond with my dad. I was raised by my mom my entire life, but we recently moved within driving distance, so I was very excited to spend time with somebody I haven't seen since I was 2 years old. I was 18 at the time, and I'd only really known my dad for 2 years. We started talking on the phone when I was 12, but I have never actually met him in person. Since we met when I was already 16, me and my dad have more of a friendship than a bond. By this time I had already been done with school and started working with friends with my mom and dad, so I was seen as an adult at a young age. We would smoke, play video games, watch movies, and even once in a blue moon he'd give me a beer. My mom hates it when I go to my dad's because he lives in a very rough neighborhood, but it was always great times hanging with my dad. Nothing has happened to him, but he started working more and he's rarely home, so I don't see him as much. When I was hanging out with him, I got to meet a lot of his friends, especially one guy who I really liked, George. He was a carpenter and a roofer. Him and his dad owned their own roofing business, and he also had a beautiful wife, Mary, who would also come to hang out. One day, we were all hanging out together, smoking and listening to music and playing video games. Unexpectedly, my dad's old high school friend Jane came over about 7 and brought her son Jerry. Jerry was 23, no job, criminal record, and made most people very uncomfortable. "Hey, how are you doing?" my dad said, irritated that she showed up unexpectedly, but still happy to see her. "Hey there, stranger," she said. "I haven't seen you since high school." They continued to talk and catch up, but I felt a disturbance in the room. I look up and see Jerry staring at my dad's cat, who's rubbing up against my leg, wanting me to pet him as usual. He was just staring at him. Cold, ice-hard, dead, soulless stare. It made me pretty uncomfortable seeing somebody stare at an animal like that, as if it did something unforgivable, and he wanted to do something horrible to it. He broke his gaze when my dad asked him where he went to school. All he said was, "I don't do school." Alright, my dad said, wanting to break the awkward silence. After some more conversation, they eventually left. Nobody really said anything about him, except being a little weird. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt, because I hated school too and didn't have many friends. But what happened a week later really made me sick. So I'm back at my dad's spending the week because he found me some work. Every now and then on certain jobs, my dad's boss needs extra help, and I'm always the first that he calls. We turn on the news one morning and see Jerry on the criminal articles. He was arrested for mutilating his neighborhood's cats and stringing up the intestines and organs across the tree branches in the woods. Being a cat person, my dad was visibly sick and pissed off. "Fuck that piece of shit," he said angrily. "Fucking psycho needs to be in a mental institution." Now, since my dad lives in a rough neighborhood, he was used to hearing about shootings, robbery, grand theft auto, drug dealing, and even murder in his area. But seeing how sick this guy was even disturbed my dad. "I don't fucking want him over here ever again," he said, and grabbed a beer and scratched the back of his neck. I didn't want to tell my dad about the fact that he was staring at his cat for fear of how he would react. A few months later, we were all hanging out as usual, and my dad gets a phone call from Jane. She wanted to visit, and her son had been out of the mental institution for a couple months. My dad agreed, but said Jerry wasn't allowed over, to which she understood why. We were still not rid of him because, well, he started dating Mary's sister, Beth. She had convinced herself that he was just a troubled boy who was misunderstood and had gotten help. I don't know what she was smoking, but he was on probation for setting fire to his stepdad's trash can a month ago. When Jane came over, she brought Beth, who she'd picked up on her way to my dad so she could spend time with her crazy boyfriend. When they came over, my dad let them in and had some conversation between one another. In the middle of the conversation, she had mentioned that she was supposed to go camping with Jerry and his best friend Bob. Once she said this, I immediately said, "Don't you think that might be a bad idea?" I seen the looks they gave me, and seen my dad start sipping his beer, so I knew that was the wrong thing to say. "What do you mean?" she asked. I mumbled, trying to come up with a way to redeem myself. "It's supposed to be rough winds and rain tonight," I finally spit out. "Well," she stated, "yeah, you're right, and I do have to work in the morning. I should call him and let him know." She left the room to call him, which I hear them arguing loudly on the phone in the kitchen. "He's upset," she said, "but he said he's still going, so it's whatever. At least I don't have to have him coming to bed angry." They have had many problems, including one instance where he had pulled a knife on her and left bruises on her neck from where he grabbed her. I was relieved, and by morning, I knew it was for a good reason. We had seen that on the news. They had found Bob's body badly burned and beaten to death near a campsite. They had a homicide unit looking for Jerry, and had talked to everybody who had been in contact with him in the past 48 hours. Jerry was found and arrested at his brother's house, with the bloody tire iron he had beaten Bob to death with, trying to clean it with bleach. Jerry was charged and convicted of first-degree murder, to which he had claimed that they had gotten in a drunken dispute, and he pushed Bob, tripping him into the fire and burning him to death. But by the evidence received, they found out Jerry was planning on killing Bob and Beth that night because he suspected them of having sex. Jerry has received the death penalty, but is currently trying to get it reduced to a life sentence because of his insanity history. I don't know if I saved Beth's life or not, but after everything that's happened, I think I'm okay with the friends I have now. As for you, Jerry, let's not meet again. And that's the end of this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see videos just like this one.